Spiritual partnership is a relationship dynamic that is brand new in the human experience. It's a new archetype. Spiritual partners choose their roles in the partnership. It's bigger than it sounds, because most people do not realize that they do not choose their own roles. A role is an identity, and most people choose the identity that their parents want them to have, that they think their peers want them to have, would admire, or that a preacher or a psychologist suggests or promotes. When your role is chosen unconsciously, it imprisons you. When you choose your role consciously, it frees you. When you choose it with the intention of love, you bring that quality of consciousness to your life, to all of the activities in your life. There is one role that will give you joy no matter who you are and what you're doing, and that's the role of the universal human. Welcome to the Gary Zukav podcast. You are always welcome here. You are always welcome in your life. But most people don't know that. That's because they're not aware of frightened parts of their personalities that are active in the moment. Parts such as anger or judgment or resentment or competitiveness or overwhelm or hopelessness. There is no frightened part of your personality, which means a part of your personality that originates in fear, that feels welcome anywhere. In fact, its sole purpose in its awareness is to make itself feel welcome and comfortable by changing the world outside. And that is the pursuit of external power, manipulation and control. The ability to manipulate and the ability to control the world, including other people, is the type of power that our species lived with, understood, and pursued for a long time. Everyone's guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of 300,000 years. But a major change is happening now, faster than any major change has ever happened to the human species. Everyone in it is acquiring this new consciousness within just a few generations. And that's what this podcast is about. That's what all of our books are about, mine and mine with Linda Francis, my spiritual partner. That's what our events are about. That's what our courses are about. And that's what your life is about. And that's why I enjoy having this podcast, to share things with you that I know about the new consciousness. And you can see whether or not you resonate with them. The fact that you're listening or watching this podcast tells us both that you resonate. You resonate with the reality that big changes are happening. Big changes. And you can look around you and see those big changes. The collapse of our social structures, such as governance, commerce, education, health. And you can look around inside you and see the collapse there. That is the appearance in your awareness of frightened parts of your personality that demand expression, that demand control. And when you give it, consciously or unconsciously, they create consequences that are painful for you, destructive and unhealthy. That's another way of saying, if you're not aware of your intention before you speak or you act, it comes from an unconscious part of your personality. Well, that's by definition, which means it comes from a part of your personality that originates in fear. Now, this is a good thing when it happens, because it's the universe's gracious way of bringing your attention to a part of your personality that you must become aware of and challenge and move beyond the control of before you can give the gifts that you were born to give. You have gifts to give. Everyone does. Don't think that you're the exception. And until you begin to give those gifts, whether it's raising a family, creating a new way of doing business, whether it is in being patient when previously you were impatient and angry, whatever gift you have to give, you will not be content, your life will not be meaningful, and you will not be able to experience joy until you give it. So you can see what a gift becoming aware of a frightened part of your personality is. And a frightened part of your personality is also a part that hurts. When you put your attention in your energy processing centers, you feel painful physical sensations there. Physical sensations that hurt as much as hitting your thumb with a hammer when you were aiming for the nail. They ache or throb or stab or sting or contract. And their thoughts are always critical and judgmental. As you move beyond the control of them, you move into the loving parts of your personality. You do that because you use responsible choice. While you're experiencing all of this that makes a frightened part of your personality so destructive and painful, you use your willpower, your free will, to move your attention into a loving part of your personality, which means a part of your personality that is patient, or grateful, or content, or in awe of the universe. And you choose to act or speak from that part of your personality while you are experiencing the painful physical sensations and critical judgmental thoughts of the frightened part. That is the moment of creating authentic power. That's when it happens. That's when energy becomes matter. Put it this way, that's when you create karma. Did you know that everything you experience in the Earth School is a karmic necessity? That means it's not random. Nothing in your life is random. Now I'm talking about your emotional experiences. But even your experiences as you move through the Earth School, these are not random. There's a wisdom that guides them. And that wisdom always moves you toward other experiences that require a choice. This is the way the Earth School works. And it's always bringing you in the direction of love. That's what you're in the Earth School for. We're being specific about it and telling you how to do it, or suggesting how to do it. No one tells you anything. A lot of people try, but you're the only one that can decide what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And it's important that you realize that, because you are the only one that's going to experience the consequences of what you decide. And what you decide is not the action, it's not the word, it's the intention behind the word. It's love or it's fear. It's a loving part of your personality and the energy attendant to that, or it's a frightened part of your personality and the painful energy attendant to that. Now, why am I spending this much time on this podcast talking about your choices, creating authentic power? Because we're in a series of podcasts having to do with spiritual partnership. Spiritual partnership is a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. And we've discussed this for the last 2 podcasts. Spiritual partnership is a relationship dynamic that is brand new in the human experience. It's a new archetype. It's a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. And it has some dynamics, 3 of them. One of them we've already discussed in the last podcast, and that's spiritual partners grow together. This is very different from marriage, where you think you've got your partner for life, or at least until you die or your partner dies. You don't even have that now because divorce is as common as marriage. Well, in a spiritual partnership, you only stay together as long as you're growing spiritually together. Now, here's another dynamic of spiritual partnership. Spiritual partners choose their roles in the partnership. That sound like a big thing? It's bigger than it sounds, because most people do not realize that they do not choose their own roles. Yes, of course, somebody says, I want to have children, or I want to be an architect, or I want to be a welder, or I want to go to Europe. But a role is an identity. And most people choose the identity that their parents want them to have, that they think their peers want them to have, would admire, or that a preacher or a psychologist suggests or promotes. And this role limits you. Yes, you can have the intention to become a mother and have it consciously and with love. But if you identify yourself with that role, you limit yourself because you are more than a mother. You are a powerful and compassionate, creative and loving spirit who's chosen the role of a mother in the earth school. But at the same time, you have other roles that are important and they shape your experiences. You have a role as a daughter. You have a role as a female. You have a role as a citizen in whatever nation you reside. You have a role as the carrier of the culture into which you were born or your lineage. It's only a lineage of your personality, and your soul has countless personalities, but you are one of them, and you have a lineage, and that lineage has different nationalities and cultures in it. And these are all roles that you are playing. So don't think that you're just a mother, or that you're just a business person, or that you're just an adventurer. I saw myself as an adventurer. I had lots of roles, all of them generated by fear. When a role imprisons you, limits you. For example, how could a role limit you? Well, if you look at yourself as manly or macho, the way I did, it limited me because the law of attraction was calling to me and calling me to others who were doing the same role. That means had the same energy. The law of attraction is simply that energy attracts like energy. So while I was macho, while I was playing the role of manly, to myself, other people might not have seen me that way at all. They might have seen me as foolish or wasting my time or doing something destructive in the world. But to me, I was manly, and I was drawing to myself others who had to behave in certain ways to fulfill their expectations of themselves. That's being controlled by your role. When your role is chosen unconsciously, it imprisons you. When you choose your role consciously, it frees you. When you choose it with the intention of love, you bring that quality of consciousness to your life, to all of the activities in your life. As you begin to explore this, you begin to see that there is one role that will give you joy no matter who you are and what you're doing, and that's the role of the universal human. But we'll talk about that often in this podcast. Universal human is a human beyond multisensory. I mentioned that we're in a great, unprecedented transformation in human consciousness. And that transformation is from the old consciousness, which was confined by the perceptions of the five senses, into the new consciousness, which is not confined to the perception of the five senses. In other words, five-sensory humans who have the old consciousness do not think there's a non-physical reality, or they have to believe it because a preacher told them, or a priest told them, but they don't experience it. They say they have to take it on faith. Let's not go into that right now, because faith, you might say, is blind belief. But what is aware belief? What is belief with awareness? That is a belief that you've chosen, and you know why you've chosen it. There's lots of belief systems. Everyone has one. I suggest, while I'm talking about belief systems, that you look at yours and see where it came from. I would suggest that you look around and see what other belief systems are available to you. And I have a suggestion for you. I don't usually make suggestions, but I love making this one. While you're looking around at belief systems, I suggest that you look for one that doesn't have any fear in it. 0. And that would be a belief system that the universe is alive and wise and compassionate. That would be a belief system that everything that happens to you, to your personality in the Earth School, is for your spiritual growth, for your benefit. From the perception of your soul, these are identical. Now, as you're doing these things, as you're creating authentic power, as you're becoming aware of your emotions and using them constructively, as you're making responsible choices about what consequences you're going to create in your life, it's because you are in the new consciousness. And the identity of a personality in the new consciousness is soul. Your soul. The identity of an individual, a human, that has the old consciousness is personality. That's who I am. I was born on this date. This is my astrological chart. You can see how my life is unfolding. You can look at the numbers through numerology. You can look at my physical history. I'm a personality. That's what people with the old consciousness have. And by the way, there are more individuals with the old consciousness yet on the earth than there are with the new consciousness, because we are midway through a very fast transformation of human consciousness, but midway. So there are hundreds of millions, billions of people who have the new consciousness, and that many who are still in the old consciousness. They don't understand anything that I'm discussing because they don't have anything in their experience to attach it to. If you're multisensory, you're not superior, and I'm not superior to anyone or anything, anytime, anywhere. It's simply a temporary ebb and flow in evolution. Within another generation and a half, everyone will be multisensory. But not everyone will be authentically powerful. That is a potential that comes with a new consciousness. And authentic power has to be created. The Earth School is about love. Not love that you discover, not love that you stumble over, not love that is given to you, not love that you fall into, but love that you choose. That's the Earth School. And as you're doing all of this, or even begin to do some of it, you begin to be attracted to others like you. Spiritual partners know that they have souls, and they know there's a reason for their being together. And they know that reason has to do with their souls. And within that partnership, they choose their roles. Now, this is remarkable because that means their roles are no longer chosen by society, by their culture, by their parents, by their peers. They choose. Well, what does that mean? It means in the old consciousness, the role of women was limited. They became mothers, nannies, secretaries, assistants. But there are a lot of things that were not allowed them. And when I name what they are, you'll realize quickly how much into the new consciousness we are. The things that did not present themselves to the old consciousness female were roles such as combat soldier, CEO of a multinational corporation, jet fighter pilot, banker, any executive function that carries great responsibility and external power. And for men, it was the opposite. They had almost everything open to them, all of the things that I've just mentioned, but Men generally did not have open to them becoming a nanny, becoming a stay-at-home father. That was not really approved by real men. All of that's changed. We're in the new consciousness now. And within a spiritual partnership, the partners choose their roles. They choose their roles in their life too, but we'll talk about that in another podcast having to do with the new male and the new female. In your spiritual partnership, you and your spiritual partner or partners choose the roles, choose your roles. A spiritual partnership can be dyadic, like Linda Francis, my spiritual partner. We chose, for example, to be monogamous, not to have affairs or sexual relationships with others, because we didn't want to. We chose it because that suited our spiritual growth. And spiritual partners choose their roles in their spiritual partners. And your spiritual partnership can be your entire family. That would be wonderful. That is really a wonderful experience when a biological family becomes a spiritual partnership. It takes a lot of work because the parent-child relationship is the most difficult in the Earth School. It takes a lot of commitment. That's a better term than work. And courage and intention. Spiritual partnerships are everywhere now. You're in one of them. If you know you have a soul, if you're drawn to your spiritual partnership because spiritual growth is important to you, which means emotional awareness, choosing responsibly, knowing that you have a part of yourself that is immortal. Then spiritual partnership is for you. But I don't present it as a spiritual partnership as an interaction that's all pleasant or comfortable. On the contrary, I suggest that when you enter a spiritual partnership, you do it not only with your heart open, but your eyes open and your mind open, because your spiritual partners are going to bring to your awareness not only the loving parts of your personality, but every frightened part also. In other words, it's your growth opportunity focused on exactly that, your growth and opportunity. Well, it's been a delight talking with you again. Here's a soul step you can take. Look at the role that you're playing in your life. What is it? How did you get it? Do you think there might be other roles that would be attractive to you, or other belief systems? Experiment beginning to live your life without a role. What would your life be like if you didn't have a role to play? If you're who you are, and in that capacity doing everything you do, and with awareness of your intention. Oh, wouldn't that be a way to live? It is more than a way to live. It's our evolutionary requirement now. And we are all on the same path with varying degrees of awareness. As your soul step, jot these thoughts down in your journal or record them into your phone, and then go back and think about them when you have time. You always have time, more than you might imagine. But this is a soul step that you can take. I'm looking forward to talking with you again. I'm Gary Zukov.